Hello and welcome back to the Fruit of Grisaia, Makina's route. In the last episode, Yuuji and Makina returned from the trip to Yamanashi. And while Yuuji was resting, Makina went off to her part-time job at the bakery. However, a car bomb went off very close by where Makina works. Makina even walked by the explosion but wasn't harmed other than a singed arm. The same, however, cannot be said about Makina's half-sister, Sarina. And now we're dealing with the aftermath of just that. Although hearing of her sister's survival calmed Makina down significantly, the events of yesterday are still painfully fresh in her mind. She shows us a brave attempt at a smile but can't hide the weariness behind it. When the girl declares herself uninterested in breakfast, I enlist Sachi's assistance. And together we prepare a unique but nutritious mackerel pumpkin soup from Amana's recipe notebook. Makina refuses the meal with an almost frightened expression on her face, so I proceed to pin her arms against her back as our reliable maid emotionlessly crams spoonfuls of food into her mouth. Through this admirable display of teamwork, we successfully force-feed the girl the breakfast her body needs. I know it might be a little hard to eat right now, but your injuries won't heal if you don't get adequate nutrients. You're getting all worked up over nothing. It's basically just a little sunburn, you know? You were lucky this time, yes. Just be grateful that explosion didn't give you an afro. It might sound like a joke, but the hot pulse from the air from an explosion burns your hair starting from the tip, sometimes curling it pretty dramatically. As a general rule, it's a good idea to brush a hand over your head when a bomb blast goes by. Often as not, cinders that used to be part of your hair will fall off like sesame seeds from a bun. Alright, this is a good opportunity. Why don't I teach you the anti-explosive self-defense procedure?
What? What's that? The word's got a pretty cool ring to him.
Listen up, Makina. Ever heard some guy in a suit mutter, "It's getting dangerous these days," while looking over their morning paper? Well, that's just an vapid catchphrase of a self-satisfied middle-aged men who think they figured out how the world works. As you were reminded yesterday, there truly are countless dangers lurking all around us. When such threats arrive, they arrive suddenly, and all too often we are completely unprepared to defend ourselves. Indeed, such complacent carelessness has become an unfortunate element of our national character. This is the very reason Japan has earned the disgraceful title of pacifist patsies among major powers.
Ooh, I'm getting the feeling you're starting in one of those lame rants again, but I'll climb up good and at least pretend to listen.
Look, kid, even if you're thinking that sort of thing, it's better not to actually say it.
Sorry about that. So, what's going on with the anti-exploding?
Okay, let's try this again. I'll now initiate you in the basics of personal defense against explosions. Listen carefully. The fundamental principle is low to the ground. When an explosion is coming, get down first and think later.
When you sense an impending explosion, get down first and think later.
Indeed. Go prone and get yourself as flat to the ground as you possibly can. With the exception of some specifically designed charges, explosions naturally tend to direct their power upward. If there's a foxhole nearby, claim it. Doesn't matter if it's full to the brim with a mixture of muddy water and excrement. Doesn't matter if your buddy's pathetic corpse is lying inside. Jump in without a moment's hesitation.
Jump into the foxhole without hesitating.
After this, assume the anti-explosive position. There's a small flap of cartilage in front of your ear hole called the trachea. Strongly press down on these with your thumbs to protect your eardrums. Next, open your mouth wide. This reduces the burden on your eardrums and keeps your lungs from popping like balloons under the pressure of the shockwave.
Plug your ears and open your mouth wide. Protect your eardrums from the explosive pressure.
You experienced for yourself just how powerful that shockwave is, so I'm sure you can understand. But don't underestimate that pressure. When the explosion occurs indoors, it's even more powerful. If you're close to the blast, it's like being squeezed in the hand of a giant. The pain is intense. Sometimes the pressure can push your eyes clean out of their sockets. While pressing the tragus on both ears with your thumbs, use the remaining fingers to cover your eyelids. Keep your eyeballs where they belong and defend them against the blast of the explosion.
Hold down your eyelids with your fingers. Defend your eyeballs from explosive pressure and powerful light.
Good. Alright then, next up, we're beginning image training based on a hypothetical scenario. Situation as follows. Recon mission in the subtropical jungle. The time, dawn. Your enemies are powerful local guerrillas. They are well equipped and have excellent morale. Enter the scenario.
Entering scenario!
Enemy raid! At my abrupt snarl, Makina throws herself flat to the ground. The enemy have ambushed you. Your position is pinned down by machine gun fire. Don't raise your head an inch. Keep that chin nuzzling the ground and crawl along the ground until the trench visible ahead. Just as instructed, Makina creeps along the floor on her knees and elbows, clutching an imaginary rifle. A moment later, she slipped her body into the space between her bed and the table.
Trench secured!
As Makina screams this report, she repositions an imaginary iron helmet on her head in order to regain a clear field of vision. Not half bad. She seems to be pretty deeply into the scenario. Incoming from enemy position M69. Assume the explosive defensive position.
Explosive defensive position!
Makina promptly plucks up both her ears, opens her mouth wide, and strongly presses down on her eyelids, lowering her body as close to the ground as she can. She melts her body with the trench, tensing in preparation for the blast. Kaboom!
Kaboom!
You damn fool, your rear end sticking up into the air. Shrapnel had just robbed you of your left buttock. Get it down, get that ass down. I figured she trampled down on Makina's rear end to emphasize the point.
Yuuji! Lowering ass, sir!
Basic grenade technique is to throw it at 2-second intervals. The next one is coming. Assume the explosive defense position.
Explosive defense position!
Okay, kaboom!
Kaboom! Excuse me, can you people not scream kaboom boom at the top of your lungs the first thing in the morning? What are you even doing in here?
Just your typical early morning anti-explosive training. If you think it is as an expression of diligent devotion to your national defense, doesn't this almost bring a tear to your eye? You're welcome to join in, Michiru.
No way! I mean, what the heck is this anti-explosive training in the first place?
As you know, Makina happened on the scene of a terror bombing yesterday afternoon. Accordingly, we're training to deal with similar scenarios. There's no downside to acquiring as many survival skills as you can.
Oh please, this is just ridiculous. Instructor, sir! I've spotted a dopey dimwit who wouldn't last 5 seconds in a real emergency. Don't you call me a dimwit! I'm not saying the training itself is stupid, okay? I just want to know why you have to do it so loudly. Keep it down a little.
Well, I thought a silly over-the-top game might briefly get Makina's mind off the fact that her little sister's fighting for her life, but...
What? Then why did you just remind her?
Sorry about that, Makina. Michiru says we're being too noisy. It seems we'll have to call this training off.
What?
It may be nothing but an innocent safety drill, but if the local civilian populace can't be convinced, we have no choice but to discontinue it. Please understand, Makina.
Oh, come on. Do you have to make it sound like I'm the bad guy here? Okay, then, Qa'Rajh, you want to join in too? That's not...
Well, I mean, I do understand what you're trying to say, Michiru. In reality, the odds of any one person encountering a dangerous explosion in their lifetime are probably fairly low. It's more likely that this training will end up being meaningless. But worst comes to worst, won't people who wasted a few minutes planning for what-ifs be the ones who get out alive? Isn't that what survival skills are?
Yeah.
For example, Michiru, let's say you take a vacation abroad to a country where the fire laws aren't well-defined or enforced. As you're gobbling down a tasty local delicacy, a fire breaks out in the crowded restaurant. As panicked customers stampede to push their way through the single doorway, you glance upward, and notice the flames slowly reaching their way to a cylinder of propane gas. What do? Think fast. Well, this is the difference between the person who is trained and a selfless, helpless spectator.
That's an awfully specific example.
I'm sure most of this is going in one ear and out the other. You're probably not even taking me seriously, but even so, there's something I feel obligated to tell you. Those who laugh at diligent self-improvement of others will end up crying in the end. Without fail. Try to remember that.
Wait, hold on. Was I actually wrong about this? Qa'Rajh, everybody makes mistakes, you know. Nothing to be ashamed of. When you notice one, all you need to do is correct it. It's never too late to turn your life around. There's plenty of time to get back on the straight and narrow. After all, Qa'Rajh, you're still alive. What's with you talking all big? Don't tell me I'm being preached at. Am I getting a life lesson? Me? From Makina?
In conclusion, it doesn't matter if you approach this as a kind of a game. Remembering the basic principles somewhere in the corner of your mind is good enough. Why not join in our anti-explosives training, Michiru?
Okay. Crazy, he made Qa'Rajh say okay. This guy's just sweet-talked a woman into submission. Papa's just as amazing as I thought, you know.
Didn't we just go over this? Even if you think stuff like that, don't actually say it.
Huh? Am I being tricked here? I'm not being tricked, right?
Michiru, my friend, think this over carefully. I have no reason to deceive you. Even if I did, hypothetically, it would be the result of my concern for your well-being. You understand?
Okay. Amazing. This guy's amazing.
When we use the phrase sweet-talking, the nuance is usually fairly negative. You tend to imagine someone coaxing an innocent through insincere lip service. But there's nothing inherently wrong about persuasion. For example, if I sweet-talk Michiru into re-examining her values, I've peacefully brought her around to my way of thinking. Isn't that an admirable alternative to conflict? Granted, it's hard to feel self-satisfied about this particular outcome.
Idiot! Your butt's sticking up into the air! Those pretty little buttocks are gonna be full of shrapnel! Are you planning to send your ass back home in a box? Idiot, get down! I'm sorry! You haven't even begun to be sorry, maggot! Didn't I just teach you the answer to my orders with Hoa? Hoa!
This is awful. It's just too much. Michiru presses herself flat to the earth in the explosive defense position. Makina mashes a heel down onto her posterior, snarling viciously. You can feel a slight glimmer of conscience in that girl, in that the girl at least removed her boots first, but seriously, where did she even pick up this demon Mariel drill instructor routine? She's impressively proficient at the verbal abuse.
Hold on, time out! Yuuji!
What's up?
Don't give me that. Is that Army Rangers game you two always play? Always like this?
I wouldn't say always, but in general we engage in roughly similar activities.
It's a game, right? Just make-believe, right? Why is she so serious about it?
Harsh training is a good thing. When you're actually in the field, it isn't the thought that the drill instructor put me through worse than this kind of reassuring. Approach your drills like battle, and battle like your drills.
Isn't that a little wrong somehow? I mean, we're just students, right?
There's nothing wrong with the theory. If anything's wrong about this scenario, wouldn't it be the way you swallowed my crap hook, line, and sinker?
I was tricked after all! What's all this? Whining already? Seems you're lacking sufficient motivation. Alright, let's get some spirit back into you. Give me 30 squat jumps. Squat jumps? Link your hands behind your head and go down on one knee, then jump and switch to your other leg. I'll do it next to you, so imitate me, okay? Prepare for squat jumps. Ready to squat jump. Okay, one. Okay, two. Hold it, maggot. Why do your knees keep rattling against the other like castanets? Are you barely getting off the ground? I want 15 centimeters. We're starting over. Alright, one. I'm telling you not to rattle your damn knees. I can't freaking help it, alright?
Well, I don't think rattling knees honestly matter much either way, but busting your balls over an arbitrary little thing they can find is a drill instructor's job. The girl seems oddly professional about this, down to the strangest little details. I have to admit, this might feel a little too realistic for a game. Hey Makina, your cell phone seems to be ringing.
What? You're right. Wonder who's calling.
Makina takes out her phone from her pocket and checks the caller ID screen, but... What's wrong? Aren't you going to answer that?
Yeah, Ranger Matsushima, keep going as you are until I return. Hooah!
With those words, Makina trots off toward the nearby bicycle parking space, her phone still buzzing away. When it comes to people calling Makina's cell phone, Suamane would by far be the most likely possibility, followed by Kumine Sachi. But if the call was from either of them, she'd hardly need to be so secretive about it.
16, 17, 18.
Hey there, Michiru. You can stop now. Sorry about dragging you into this game.
Hey Yuuji, you know what? I think this is starting to feel a little fun.
That's so? Well, good for you.
19, 20.
Your knees.
Michiru's knees rattle violently as she continues her vigorous leaps. Depending on how you look at it, the strange smile on her face could be seen as a delirious expression of a soldier fallen prey to self-destructive despair. Well, whatever. This is a pretty heavy exercise given the heat, so I suppose a bit of temporary lunacy isn't surprising. Heat and exhaustion often make people go a little off in the head. However, the person in question usually doesn't realize it. Asako once told me a story from a time she'd been shipped off to a war in South America. An unending heat wave combined with the enemy bombings that came like clockwork every day had worn down on her nerves to the point of numbness. Eventually the company commander was wounded in action and the new first lieutenant who arrived from the rear took over. He was apparently a timid man prone to trembling in his trench when the bombs began to fall. Asako found his shaking so hilarious that she'd spent the entire duration of the attacks cackling unapproachiously. The lieutenant interpreted this as a sign of derangement and promptly had her shipped back home. What's abnormal? What's normal? Depends entirely on your circumstances and perspective. Granted, I'm tempted to interpret Michiru's current actions as evidence that she has lost it, but to Michiru this course of action might seem like the most reasonable thing in the world. But just as I'm pondering this possibility, the girl suddenly stops moving entirely. Squatting down, she wraps her arms around her knees and begins to mutter indistinctly at the ground. Given this heat and her clear physical exhaustion, it's possible that her brain's just melting in a stew of lactic acid. Papa?
Oh, hey, Makina. What's up? Who was that?
It was Grandpa.
Grandpa would be...
Well, my mom's papa.
The former head of the Irisu family, eh? And what did he have to say?
This isn't really the best place.
I see. In that case, let's head somewhere a little more private.
Oppose!
Actually, hold on just a second. Mind if I ask you a quick question before we go, Makina?
Yeah, what's up?
What does the word oppose signify?
I don't know. I mean, that's what you're worried about here? Not Qa'Rajh, who's currently holding her knees rolling around on the ground?
I mean, she's laughing, right?
Yes, it's all good then. It's not! Ow! Wait! Ow! Why am I laughing? Michiru seems to have botched the landing and twisted her ankle. The heat and fatigue have clearly done a number on the girl. She laughs hysterically as though confusing pain with pleasure. Well, now, what to do? For the moment, Makina and I surround the girl at a distance and poke her with a stick. Fortunately enough, Sachi happens to pass by a moment later. After we explain the situation, she says, "Leave it to me," and leaves the courtyard at a trot. Assuming the maid had run off to call an ambulance or something of the sort, we wait by Michiru's side offering encouraging words. This continues for about 15 minutes or so. At long last, Sachi returns in a pristine white maid uniform, cheerfully swinging wee woo, and proceeds to nimbly snap together a folding aluminum stretcher. She changed clothes first. I'm certain we're all thinking it, but nobody dares to actually voice the words. In any case, Makina and I go with the flow and entrust Michiru to her new nurse's enthusiastic care. Then offer our brave colleague a deeply sincere salute as she's rolled off on the wheel stretcher like a cylinder of propane on a cart.
So, are you willing to tell me about that call?
Yeah, I mean, I want you to hear about it.
I'll listen.
Hello, this is Makina. Oh, it's you, Makina. It's really been a while. Yeah, Grandpa, it's been a while, but why now, all of a sudden? Sorry, Makina, try to speak up. I'm getting up in the years. My ears don't work as well as they used to. The person on the other end of the line was Makina's grandfather. The call had been placed directly by Irisu Haruchika, the man who led the Irisu clan before his retirement. I'm sure you've heard by now, but Serena was in a serious accident yesterday. That wasn't an accident, Grandpa. It was an accident, Makina. An unfortunate accident. Do you understand? I don't even want to understand. Tell me, Makina, don't you think it's about time you came home? Why are you saying this now, Grandpa? Why now, after all this time? Don't be too angry with me. I know I didn't come to visit you in the hospital, but I did have my reasons. And until just the other day, I wasn't even aware you'd been discharged.
A faction within the branch house, afraid of Makina's potential return, must have deliberately prevented that information from reaching him. However, when a hefty check of 70 million yen was issued in Makina's name, an inquiry from the bank found its way directly to her grandfather. Only then did he learn that Makina had been released some time before.
"I've been told you were still disabled and receiving long-term medical care. If you left the hospital, why didn't you come to see me?"
Makina struggled to find an answer to her grandfather's question.
"Are you still caught up on what happened to Masataka-kun? That was an accident."
Her father, the person she loved more than anyone else in the world, was gone. All that was left was her nasty, high-strung mother, her grandmother who used to stare at her with the cold eyes of someone contemplating a broken toy, her kind but willfully blind grandfather, utterly unreliable when push came to shove, and the servant who suffocated her spirit, justifying everything with the words, "I'm afraid these were my instructions." At a glance, that house offered everything a person could possibly want, but it was a hollow shell full of hollow people, a gilded prison. It was the sort of place where saying, "I want to learn how to ride a bike," would result in someone buying you a purebred horse you haven't even asked for. What was there to miss about a home like that?
"Grandpa, I don't want to go back to that house."
They'd no doubt take good care of her if she returned, but only because they valued her as an asset and or respected her position. Nobody there would even try to understand Makina herself. Some might say, "So what? Sounds like a pretty good deal," and maybe they wouldn't be wrong. Others might say, "You ran away from home, but you're still going to this school on your family's money, living completely freely. What right do you have to complain?" And she couldn't argue that point. But even so, just thinking about returning to that house made Makina's eyes fill with tears. Everything that was precious to her, everything she needed to be herself, her individuality and personality, all such inconvenient baggage would be ruthlessly thrown away. Money and power wore people beyond recognition. Makina knew that all too well. She was simply afraid of that house.
"I understand how you feel. It's a heavy burden to bear. Not just everyone can do this job. That's probably a little frightening to think about. But precisely because you feel that way, there are things only you can do. Come back home, Makina." "I don't want to, Grandpa. I'm not the person I used to be. I don't want to be like that ever again." "Seriously?"
"Seriously. I'm sorry, Grandpa, but I don't wanna. I can't take that place anymore."
"I see. I'm afraid it's not likely anyone will accept that answer." "Well, all right. I won't ask you to come back right away, but will you try to think this over for a while? Think very carefully. Imagine yourself a year from now, 10 years from now, 30 years from now. Then decide what you really want to do."
"I don't think, Grandpa, the people from the main family really are gonna give up and get me to come back. Maybe, just maybe, the bombing yesterday might have been something people from the main family did to make me come back." "But if they screwed up even slightly, you could have gotten blown away too."
"They wouldn't have known I was gonna be there. If people from the main family was really behind it, I think they must have been pretty panicked when I showed up."
"I don't really follow all this business with the main family and branch family. At the end of the day, what are their objectives here?"
"It's basically a squabble for control between the two families. The branch family wants my sister to inherit leadership as the figurehead, and the main family wants me there instead. They are after power and money."
I'm not familiar with the exact details, but I understand the scale of the price we're talking about here. The Irisu family's long-standing assets extend to countless subsidiaries, both foreign and domestic. They're not just prominent in industrial manufacturing, financial and retail, but also major players in iron, steel, shipbuilding and even armaments. The money flowing through the Irisu apparently rivals the budget of a small country. A pencil made by the Irisu scratches down your name on the birth certificate in a government office. You eat food imported by the Irisu in your school cafeteria as you grow. In the time you find employment in an enterprise under the Irisu umbrella. When you grow sick, you're taken to an Irisu hospital, and when you die, you rest under a gravestone manufactured by the Irisu. If you're born in Japan, it's all but impossible not to interact with that family in some way. But despite this astonishingly wide influence, the name Irisu itself will probably get you a blank stare as often as not. The brands and their conglomerate include many household names, but the parent company itself is fairly obscure. They say those with real power don't tend to advertise it, like the old nobility hidden up above the clouds.
And here is Makina, who stands to inherit the seat at the very top of this lofty house, is still in her teens, practically a child. Who could blame the girl if she panicked in the face of that burden, if she ran away or tried to hide?
Your grandfather said you don't have to come back immediately, didn't he?
Yeah.
In that case, seems to me you should start by mulling this over. First of all, whether you're going to return to your family or not. And once that's settled, figure out what you're going to do when you return. Or what you're going to do when you refuse. What do you really want to do from now on? Your grandpa gave you the chance to deliberate about this, right?
Well, yeah, but even Grandpa isn't gonna wait forever, you know.
Not a problem. I'll get you as much time as you need.
How?
That depends on how they want to play it. I haven't settled on any specific plans yet, but I'm ready to do anything I need to do.
Anything?
That's right. Don't you remember? I made you a promise, Makina. Even if everyone else in the world became your enemy, I'd protect you. Those words weren't just for show. I really will do whatever I possibly can. You don't need to worry about a thing. Just go about your normal life, exactly as you have.
But
don't worry. You've given me fair compensation for my services. There's nothing to feel guilty about. You're important enough to me that I was willing to make that promise. Hell, at this point you've become my purpose in life. I'm living for your sake, and I'll die for your sake. I've been prepared for that from the start. In conclusion, there's no problem here. I'll kick the crap out of every last jackass stupid enough to harass you. You just sit back and see what a man who's found something to protect can do.
Really? Are you really okay with that?
I'm your father, remember? Showing off in front of our kids like this is what we do. There's nothing a father doesn't know, no problem he can't overcome. In other words, relax and think this over carefully. Whatever your choice is, I'll accept it absolutely and support you with everything I've got.
Papa.
Overcome with emotion, even beginning to sob a little, Makina ducks her upper body low to the ground and rushes forward. A split second later, her forewind smacks into my solar plexus with a solid thunk. Oh. To be perfectly honest, the impact's so sharp it's difficult to even breathe properly, but sinking onto my knees here would hardly help me keep the girl's hard-won trust. With an extremely strained attempt at a smile, I grab hold of Makina's fuzzy little head and squeeze her tightly against my chest. Strongly, very strongly, in the protective bear hug of a reliable parent. After that day, I've attempted to stay close to Makina's side as much as possible. I sincerely doubt there'd be many idiots reckless enough to try and pull anything inside the school, essentially a stronghold of the Sakaki family, but preparing for that long-shot what-if is my job. Fortunately, I've been trained in guarding someone without even allowing them to realize that they are being protected. The only real problem is night. Without a doubt, human beings are most defenseless when they are sleeping. It's the ideal timing for a raid or a kidnapping attempt. And even I'm not capable of staying awake constantly to protect the girl as she sleeps. As a simplest countermeasure, it would be ideal if I could arrange to spend my night with Makina, but...
well, is it okay if I sleep with Papa in his room from now on?
Caught off guard by this admittedly rather abrupt inquiry, Amanda stares intently down Makina's face for a long moment, then turns her laser-like gaze onto me. Makina's expression is unusually serious, with no hint of the stand-up messing around, and although this would usually be the part where I deliver a karate chop to that well-positioned head of hers, I simply stand quietly behind the girl without raising any objection. Apparently Amanda senses something strange in the air. She lets out a long, soft sigh, then nods deeply to herself. Makina, do you know what you're saying?
Yeah.
If that's your decision, I won't say a thing. But now that you made up your mind, make sure you thought... That should be thought. Thought it all out, all the way to the end, okay? Even if it gets scary or starts to hurt, don't say stop halfway through. Night won't last forever. The morning will always come. Be brave and keep hanging in there.
Yeah, I'll hang in there, but,
As for you, Yuuji, if Makina is suffering or having a hard time, try to be considerate instead of just thinking about what's easy for you. Well, yeah, that's the plan. Also, I expect you to be responsible about contraception. You have condoms, I assume. Okay, Amanda, let me return that question from a moment ago. Do you have any idea what you're saying?
What?
War doesn't cut it, woman.
Although it seems there may have been a slight discrepancy in our understanding of the situation, it was agreed that Makina would spend her nights in my room. Regrettably, my room only has one bed, and it's a single. It wouldn't be so bad to huddle together for warmth in winter, but at this time of year the idea is not particularly appealing. Yielding the bed to Makina, I spread out a mat and sleeping back on the floor for myself. You aren't gonna sleep with me, huh?
A little hot for that, don't you think?
At my old school, 10 at night was lights out time, and by 11 they'd cut the electricity to the dorm off entirely. Even the air conditioners went dead. In other words, I'm fairly accustomed to sleeping under hot and stuffy conditions, but there's hardly any need to go out of my way to recreate the experience. And also, if by any chance someone really did attack, we'd be better off sleeping at different points in the room. Attack Team A probably leads off by knocking at the door. Just as I'm getting up to reach for the knob, they blast the lock, upper and lower hinges with simultaneous shotgun fire. As I flinch backwards reflexively, Team B crashes through the window on the opposite side of the room and pincers us both. Doubt I'll be able to hold them off for even 3 minutes. Compared to me and Makina huddling together in one bed where we can easily be encircled and dispersing ourselves on the bed and floor expands the area that has to be targeted, giving us more option.
Alright, time to sleep. Get in bed.
Yeah. Mumbling her approval listlessly, Makina turns around to face away from me, then abruptly begins pulling off her clothes on the spot. After stripping down to her underpants, she takes a big t-shirt, gone all loose in the collar, presumably a hand-me-down from Amane, and pulls it over her head as sleepwear. Might be a t-shirt to Amane, but on Makina, it's a one-piece dress. Resisting a sudden urge to smile, I open my window and drape the towel I used after my shower outside to dry. I carefully positioned the towel just low enough to hide the bed Makina's crawled into almost completely, and deliberately leave the curtains open. For anyone out there interested in observing this room, this strip of fabric represents a simple hindrance. If the bath towel's position shift even slightly overnight, it would suggest the existence of someone looking inside. The degree and direction of the movement could even help to determine the point from which they are observing us. Basic tricks like this won't often accomplish much against a professional, but a multitude of small insurance policies is the best way to keep things safe and quiet.
I'm turning off the lights.
Yeah. A sliver of pale light streams into the room from the streetlights outside. There's no sound but the chirping of insects. Somewhere far away the cicadas are still singing. The bright city and warm concrete might have caused them to confuse night with day. I yawn inside my sleeping bag, feeling dull fatigue slowly spreading out from behind my eyes. Going to bed at this hour should mean I'll wake up briefly around 2:30 in the morning. I'll check up on Makina, then go back to sleep for a few hours. Hey, Papa?
What's up?
Let's talk about something.
What? Again? You have anything specific on your mind?
Is there something you want to be when you grow up?
Something I want to be, huh?
I think this is the first time she's asked me about my future rather than my past. Putting aside the question of whether I'll even have one, it's not like I haven't daydreamed about it every once in a while. But even so, there's a collar on my neck that isn't coming off till I'm dead. Taking that into consideration, the number of paths realistically open to me are severely limited.
Let's see. Guess I see myself ending up as a taxi driver, maybe?
It's a classic choice for employees. While spending most of your time working for a private taxi company, you get a minor allowance of 150,000 yen a month as a reserve member, ready to be called up when needed. The jobs open to an employee on the reserve aren't strictly limited, but ideally they want you in a position where you can respond quickly to an emergency summons, and from that perspective a taxi driver is probably the best possible option.
How about you, Makina? You have any ideas about the future?
You don't have to think about the thing with your family. I'm asking about your dreams. I haven't really thought about the future so much. I just don't want to go back home. That's all I used to think about. Not about what I want to do or what I can do. Sort of vaguely wanted to stay in this school forever, just like this. Stay with all the nice people here forever. But that's not really an option, right?
Well, you are going to graduate eventually.
But you know what? Lately I've started to think about it a little.
Oh, mind letting me hear your thoughts?
So, okay, you know how I'm working at a bakery right now? Guess I was sort of thinking I could save up some money and start my own eventually.
Oh, that's right. She did say something about a sniper or a baker, didn't she?
So I'd set up this bakery by the ocean, and it'd be sort of like a little cafe. People could come by and eat freshly baked rolls and bread and stuff. And I want to set it up someplace where everybody can drop by, even after we all graduate from Yahama. That way I can still see all my friends whenever I want.
There's an idea. If you had a bakery like that, I could stop by in my taxi to hang out.
Oh, come on, you're supposed to be running the bakery with me.
What? I'm part of this too?
Yep, that's right. I'll bake the bread, so you're in charge of the coffee and tea. What do you think?
I see. Yeah, I guess that kind of life wouldn't be half bad either.
I know, right? I bet it'll be lots of fun. Lots and lots of fun every single day.
Yeah, almost like a dream.
I don't know exactly what kind of life Makina's lived up until now, but I do know a little about the Qa'Rajh, a family of immense power that stays behind the scenes, constantly maneuvering deep below the surface of society. I know Makina didn't ask for the role, they forced her onto her shoulders. Even as a child, she sensed something strange about the world she lived in, so clearly different from that of others her age, and in time she came directly in contact with the foul corruption inside her own family. That corruption claimed her father, the only person in the Qa'Rajh household who really loved her, and she hasn't had a real ally since then. Even that small goal of opening a bakery, hardly the wildest of ambition, must seem like a faint and distant dream to Makina. Sure. Makina's hopes for the future had stayed hidden away deep inside for some time. Maybe speaking them out loud provided something in the matter of catharsis, the girl's already snoring softly into her pillow. If my child has dreams, I won't spare any effort to help them make them happen. That's my role now. The problem is Makina's grandfather. The girls told him that she isn't going to return, but I can't imagine he'll accept that answer. Makina wants nothing to do with the Qa'Rajh clan anymore, but simply declaring that won't bring this to an end. Even if we did manage to win over her grandfather, the Qa'Rajh aren't a small enough organization to be swayed by the will of one soft-hearted individual. It was too late the moment the old man learned she was in good health. Makina will be dragged into a power struggle, whether or not she wants any part of it. There's no longer any room for doubt.
Even if I make the whole world my enemy, huh? Might have gone a little overboard with that one.
But there are some things a man has to do. I've made my decision and I'll carry it out, even if that means tearing the chains off my neck and becoming a stray. I think this job might be the reason why I'm here. And in that light, it feels as though my life might have some small meaning of its own. And that's the end of this episode, so we shall see where we are taken in the next one. So until then, take care.